The air was thick, heavy, and stale, like the breath of a dying thing. I sat on the edge of the bed, the soft glow of the nightlight casting long, distorted shadows across the nursery. My son, a tiny, perfect creature, slept peacefully in his crib, oblivious to the tempest raging within me. I felt nothing, or rather I felt a vast echoing emptiness, a void where emotions used to reside. It was a numbness so profound it was almost tangible, a cold, hard shell encasing my heart. This wasn't a sudden descent. It was a slow, insidious erosion, a gradual stripping away of my sense of self. I decided finally to excavate the buried. Pain, to lay it bare, even though the events were still painfully fresh, like a raw, open wound. I was a stay-at-home mother, a role I had embraced with both trepidation and a fierce, unwavering love. Before the arrival of my son, I was a woman defined by her work, by her ambition, by the relentless rhythm of a life lived outside the home. But then, there was him, a tiny, squalling bundle of life, and suddenly, the world shifted on its axis. He was the culmination of a love I had desperately wanted, a love I had clung to with a tenacity born of a deep-seated longing for a family of my own. My partner, Liam, already had a daughter, a spirited, bright-eyed girl named Chloe from a previous relationship. I had taken her into my heart as my own, nurturing her, guiding her, loving her as if she were my own flesh and blood. She called me Mommy, a title that filled me with a bittersweet joy, a fragile sense of belonging I had never known. The transition to stay-at-home motherhood was a brutal awakening. I had spent my entire adult life navigating the demands of a career, the structured chaos of a professional environment, the unstructured, relentless chaos of caring for a newborn, a toddler, and a man who seemed perpetually stuck in adolescence, was a different beast altogether. Liam, bless his heart, worked tirelessly to provide for us. He held down a demanding, overnight job, the kind that sapped his energy and left him perpetually exhausted. The burden of the household fell squarely on my shoulders. I was the keeper of the hearth, the nurturer, the silent engine that kept our little world running. I cooked, I cleaned, I laundered, I soothed tantrums, I chased after a whirlwind toddler, and I cared for a newborn who demanded constant attention. I prepared Liam's lunches, packed with the kind of hearty, sustaining food he needed to fuel his long shifts. And every night, I became his reluctant alarm clock, battling his groggy resistance, coaxing him out of sleep with gentle words and a firm hand. He was a difficult man to wake. Like a petulant child, he would throw tantrums, his voice a low growl of resentment, his body a dead weight against my efforts. He would yell, his words laced with a frustration that seemed disproportionate to the task at hand. And always, the unspoken accusation hung in the air. If he was late, if he missed his shift, it would be my fault. I had learned to navigate his moods, to anticipate his needs, to walk on eggshells, a skill honed by years of trying to maintain a semblance of peace in a relationship that was often fraught with tension. Liam was, for the most part, faithful. There were the occasional slip-ups, the stray texts from old flames, the flirtatious messages exchanged with co-workers. I would find them, tucked away in the hidden corners of his phone, and a cold dread would settle in my stomach. A familiar, unwelcome guest. And then there was the incident, the grand betrayal, the one that occurred just weeks before my son's birth. It was a messy, drawn-out affair, a tangle of lies and half-truths that left me reeling. Why did I stay? It was a question that echoed in the hollow spaces of my heart. Was it helplessness? Was it the desperate, clinging hope for the family I had always craved? Or was it something else? Something I couldn't quite articulate? A sense of obligation, a fear of the unknown. The birth of my son seemed to usher in a period of relative calm. Liam, perhaps spurred by the weight of fatherhood, seemed to be making an effort. He worked harder, earning promotions, bringing in more money, his ego swelling with each success. I, in turn, continued to play my part. The dutiful wife, the devoted mother, the silent, unwavering support system. One night, as I went through my usual routine, preparing dinner, packing Liam's lunch, and then attempting to rouse him from his slumber, a strange unease settled over me. It was a feeling, a whisper of intuition, a sense that something was amiss. I tried to dismiss it, to attribute it to the exhaustion that had become my constant companion, but the feeling persisted, a nagging, insistent voice in the back of my mind. After Liam left for work, I decided to go for my usual run, a brief respite from the relentless demands of motherhood. I left the children in the care of my sister, a trusted confidant, and ventured out into the cool night air. My route took me through our apartment complex and onto a nearby trail. As I rounded a bend, I saw his car, parked in a secluded corner of the complex, a place where it had no business being. My heart lurched, a cold, hard knot forming in my chest. Why was he here? He had told me he was going to work. I checked my phone and my suspicions were confirmed. His location, which he had insisted on sharing with me as a testament to his loyalty, was turned off. The next day, he returned home earlier than usual, bearing gifts, a desperate attempt to assuage my suspicions. I played the part of the oblivious wife. My smile strained, my eyes hollow. As he showered, I seized the opportunity to check his phone. The messages I found were like a physical blow, a punch to the gut. He was texting a young woman, a resident of our very apartment building, a woman he had met just the day before. He was on his way to her, he said, to give her vitamin D. The words echoed in my mind, a cruel, mocking taunt. He had looked me in the eyes, kissed me goodbye, and lied. He had allowed me to pack his lunch, to wake him for a rendezvous with another woman. The betrayal was so profound, so complete, that it shattered something within me. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, the familiar landscape of my life suddenly alien and hostile. I heard the water stop, and I quickly replaced the phone, my movements mechanical, my mind a blank slate. He emerged from the bathroom, his voice cheerful, his demeanor normal. I played along, asking about his work, feigning interest. He told me it had been an easy night, a lie that hung in the air like a foul odor. Another day passed, and the same unease returned. I checked his phone before he left for work, and once, again, I found the telltale messages, the evidence of his deception. This time, I decided to play a different game. I packed his lunch with meticulous care, seasoning each dish with an excessive amount of salt. I filled his flask with dishwater. I made his favorite sandwiches with spit and old fish grease, and as he left, I kissed him goodbye, my voice dripping, with false affection. That night, as I went for my run, I saw his car parked in the same spot. The anger, the rage, the raw, unadulterated fury that had been simmering within me finally boiled over. I returned to our apartment, my movements fueled by a primal instinct. I gathered every messy condiment I could find, and I decorated his car, a canvas for my rage. I filled it with the trash he had neglected to take out, dirty diapers, rotten, tissues, and other unspeakable refuse. I blacked out, consumed by a blind, unthinking fury. I wanted him to see the mess I had made, to feel the weight of my betrayal. I wanted him to understand the depth of my pain. This was the beginning of the end, the moment when the fragile facade of my life began to crumble. This was the moment when I began to break. The story continues with the unraveling of the relationship, the emotional fallout, and the rebuilding of a life shattered by betrayal. This is a story of pain, but also of resilience, a testament to the strength that can be found in the face of unimaginable heartbreak.